Chapter 12:21. A surge of spiritual energy, filled with murderous intent, almost dyed the sky blood red. It had an aura that Li Qingshan was very familiar with, reminding him of an old enemy, Strong Stone. This stone was indeed the Stone of Slaughter from the Azura Path. Luo Ho Xiaoming's expression changed. What's wrong? Let's go and see. Li Qingshan was curious and let Abbot Fu Ku lead the way. The group passed through the Hall of Great Strength and arrived at the backyard of the Pudu Temple. There was a small lake hidden in the dense bamboo forest, sparkling under the light of the setting sun. There was a stone tablet beside the lake with the words Bitter Lake engraved on it. Li Qingshan felt that the spiritual energy here was very rich, as if he had returned to the 9 provinces. He understood that the killing intent of the Stone of Slaughter had been suppressed by an array formation, allowing only the spiritual energy within to be released, transforming this small lake into a land of spiritual energy. Reporting to Your Highness, the demon star is at the bottom of the lake. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a splash. Li Qingshan jumped into the lake and swam toward the bottom with his arms open. The lake was more than 10 feet deep, and there was a deathly stillness in the water. There was almost no trace of fish or shrimp. As the murderous intent grew stronger, Li Qingshan knew that he was close to his target. In the darkness, a dot of red light gradually grew larger. A giant cone-shaped stone was quietly inserted into the bottom of the lake, glowing with a dark red light. Found it! Li Qingshan's eyes lit up. He kicked back and shot straight toward the giant stone. At this time, there was a roar in front of him, and a surging undercurrent attacked him. Huxian, and the others looked into the distance with concern. Suddenly, the lake water seemed to be boiling, and the faint roar of beasts could be heard. Your Highness! Huxian looked back angrily at Fu Ku. Bald donkey, is this another trap of yours? Fu Ku's face was also filled with fear. I really don't know. With a bang, the water surface exploded, and a giant black shadow shot into the sky, landing heavily on the edge of the lake, crushing a bamboo forest. Zhang Xianfeng arrived on the wind, but found that it was a giant turtle with a cracked shell on the verge of death. There's actually such a monster in the lake. Fu Ku exclaimed. The Bitter Lake was originally the release pond in the temple. As it sank into the Stone of Slaughter, the fishes and shrimps in it began to kill and devour each other. Even though the monks were merciful, this was for the peace of the world and the development of Pudu Temple. He had no choice but to sacrifice them. However, he did not expect that there would be a survivor who had been hiding at the bottom of the lake and had cultivated into a monster by absorbing the spiritual energy in the Stone of Slaughter. It became the guardian beast of the Stone of Slaughter. The lake calmed down. The surging murderous aura became more and more intense. A dark red reef rose from the surface of the lake and quickly grew larger as it approached the lakeside. That is the Stone of Slaughter, Monk Fu Ku said. Even after all these years of suppression and dilution, it still caused everyone's blood to boil, and a faint desire to kill rose within them. Fortunately, they were all innate masters, so they had a certain level of resistance. Only Hu Linger moaned, Sister, I feel terrible. Ling, go further away. Don't come close. Walala. Water flowed down from the giant rock. Li Qingshan carried the Stone of Slaughter on his body and walked up step by step from the bottom of the lake. Your Highness! Li Qingshan came to the shore and slowly put down the Stone of Slaughter on his body. It still made a muffled sound, showing its weight. It is indeed a good spirit stone. It's a pity that too much spiritual energy has dissipated. This Stone of Slaughter was so strong that even steel that had been tempered 100 times couldn't compare. It seemed to have been tempered in some way but it didn't seem like a magic treasure. Besides, there were countless Shura divine weapons in the Azura realm. Who would use a big stone as a weapon? He shook his head and didn't think about it. With this stone of slaughter, his ape demon transformation would definitely improve. However, he hadn't had time to digest the spiritual energy he had just swallowed, so he wasn't in a hurry. "It's mine." A young and tender voice spoke up, causing everyone to be startled. Luo Ho and Little Ming walked up and patted the huge stone of slaughter. "What did you say?" "I said it's mine." Luo Ho Xiaoming showed a look of nostalgia. "You want to take advantage of me? I obviously carried it out from the bottom of the lake. If you don't believe me, turn the stone over and see." Li Qingshan pushed the stone of slaughter to the side doubtfully. Sure enough, he found a dark sun and moon totem underneath. It was the totem of the Rahu clan. He suddenly remembered that Luo Ho Xiaoming had shot a stone from a slingshot and instantly killed Domo Hun. If that was the case, everything could be explained. A normal stone naturally wouldn't come from the Azura realm by itself. It also wouldn't have such a strong killing intent. It also wouldn't have been able to turn into a monster like strong stone with a powerful force. After pondering for a moment, he waved his hand to dismiss everyone. Only the two of them were left by the lake. Li Qingshan asked, "What exactly is going on?" "What do you mean, what is going on?" "I was just shooting it for fun." Luo Ho Xiaoming carelessly touched the slingshot on his waist named Xiaoya and said, "The 6 paths of reincarnation are connected to the other worlds. It's easy to hit it." Li Qingshan was speechless. Even without the barrier of the void, this was a cross-realm attack. Just how fierce was this Azura divine child in the past? The legend of the demon star descends and the world plunges into chaos was just a child's game of shooting sparrows. And that monster General Strongstone, who massacred dozens of cities and killed countless people. That stone of slaughter in the 9 provinces, was it also you who shot it? Other than me, who else would be so bored? Luo Ho Xiaoming tilted his head and squinted his eyes as if he was sleepy again. "So you also know that you are bored." Li Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. "Wait, I've only stayed in 2 worlds, and you shot the stone both times. This can't be a coincidence, right?" The 3,000 worlds was the collective name of the great 1,000 worlds, the medium 1,000 worlds, and the small 1,000 worlds. As for the specific number, perhaps only the gods and Buddhas in the 9 heavens knew. Unexpectedly, 2 worlds had stone of slaughter. Chapter 12:23. The luxurious garden actually contained even more treasures, antiques, and paintings than the Pudu temple. Unfortunately, it was still unable to save its owner's life. Li Qingshan placed everything on the turtle's back. The 4 legs of the turtle trembled, unable to support it any longer. It just lay on the ground and looked at Li Qingshan pleadingly. Li Qingshan kicked him. "You bastard, get up! You can't even carry so little. How useless!" Yang Miaozhen could not bear to see him like this. She tried to persuade him. "Your Highness, there are carriages and horses here. Don't force him." "What do you know? I'm helping him cultivate. I don't know what kind of spiritual beast he is, but there's a sense of burden in his bloodline. These burdens are the best cultivation." Li Qingshan turned to the turtle and said, "If you don't want to get up, then just lie here and wait for your death. I don't want the things on the back either." The turtle let out a growl and slowly stood up again. It walked forward step by step, but it was extremely difficult. Li Qingshan leapt onto the turtle's back again, and the turtle stopped again. It could not take it anymore, but Li Qingshan's words suddenly rang out in its head. Li Qingshan passed on some of the methods to circulate qi from the spirit turtle's method of qi suppression to it. The demon qi all over the turtle condensed, and its footsteps immediately became more stable. It nodded at Li Qingshan in gratitude. A group of carriages followed behind the turtle, forming a long procession. Hu Xian stood where she was without moving at all. She held a head in her hands. Hu Ling accompanied her silently from the side. Zhang Xianfeng whispered, "Your Highness, aren't we going to wait for her?" Leaving this vixen behind was obviously for the best. Time waits for no one. Don't worry, she'll catch up. Don't look at me like that. I was originally a heartless person. I wonder who's bold enough to take this great head. Li Qingshan's laughter was clear, spreading out in all directions. So what if I betray the entire world? What's there to be ashamed and regretful about? As a man, he had to carry the burden and advance. When Yang Miaozhen and Zhang Xianfeng heard that, they felt their minds clear up. They felt indescribably relaxed and happy. Hu Xian shuddered. She let go of the head and kicked it away. With a plop, it landed in the stream and drifted away. She grabbed Hu Ling and followed the procession. She leapt onto the turtle's back and threw herself into Li Qingshan's arms. They traveled north until they reached Galloping City. Everyone in the city knew that the hero king had returned, so they welcomed him. Before he even arrived, his deeds had already spread throughout the world, and the Northern Territory was also at peace. Arriving at the world meeting, Gu Yenying stood in the courtyard with a smile in her white clothes and a folding fan in her hand. "Congratulations, congratulations. Your cultivation has recovered a little again. Looks like you've benefited quite a lot. These 3 must be the legendary 10 great beauties of the world." Hu Xian couldn't say it out loud. She thought that she was already the most beautiful woman in the world. Even Yang Miaozhen and Zhang Xianfeng, the 2 top 10 beauties, seemed a little feminine when compared to her. However, when she saw the legendary leader of the world society, she suddenly felt a sense of shame. It was the difference between a wild fox and a divine eagle. So she really is the most beautiful woman in the world. He must like her very much. "Where's your mask?" Li Qingshan asked. "I don't need it anymore," Gu Yenying said. With the establishment of the Azura army, she controlled the power and did not need to worry about small problems caused by her appearance. Li Qingshan ordered people to unload the things on the turtle's back. Gu Yenying's eyes brightened. But now, it seemed that Li Qingshan could single-handedly defeat the remaining 3 families and 5 sections. There was no need to worry at all, so he said nothing. "Amitba, I don't think so. Now that the northern region has not been stabilized, rashly conquering the south will only cause chaos and countless deaths. It is not in line with your Highness's chivalrous way. Bald donkey, I think your body is in the world society, but your heart is in martial union. As the saying goes, a long night is fraught with dreams. If we give martial union a chance to breathe, who knows what kind of trouble they will cause." Lei Lai said coldly. The death of the 7 slaughtering demon lord was definitely related to the Pudu temple. Otherwise, the fiend star would not have sunk into the bitter lake. "Shut up." Li Qingshan slammed the table and scolded. "Brat, you sure know how to talk now. This is the place to talk. If you want to take revenge, find another place to duel with Hall Master Fuku. Don't think he can do anything to you just because he can't do anything to you. A duel is a duel. Why would I be afraid of him?" Lei Lai's face turned red. "Duels are not allowed in the world society. Hall Master Lei, you insulted Hall Master Fuku. Later, you will receive 50 strokes of the cane," Gu Yenying said. "Yes, Guildmaster." Lei Lai lowered his head and accepted the order. His anger disappeared without a trace. Even a blind man could see his abnormality. Even though he knew it was hopeless, he could not go against her order. Xue Hanfeng had also noticed his daughter's abnormality. He could not help but sigh. This man and woman were both peerless, who could escape their charm and resist their power. Hall, Master Fuku's words are reasonable. Even if we can unify the world with force, we can't avoid massacres. Many people will be disappointed in the world society and even doubt the chivalrous king's chivalrous way. Only by doing something in the northern region can we break the rumor that the fiend star has descended and the world will be in chaos. I hereby swear that if the people of the world are not willing to submit, the world society will not take them by force. Guildmaster is wise. I admire you. To be honest, I used to believe such rumors until I saw the king's chivalry and the guild master's magnanimity. Just now, I realize my own shallowness. I am willing to serve you and return peace to this world, so that all lives are equal and good, and evil will be repaid. Monk Fuku's expression was sacred. Li Qingshan also felt a little strange. His chivalrous way was both righteous and selfish, but he was not as serious as this monk. He did not know if it was because of the influence of the spiritual imprint, but it was clear that Gu Yeniying's decision had increased his loyalty. Li Qingshan also agreed with Gu Yeniying's words. Being domineering had always been the fastest way, but it was also the most unstable. In this world, this instability would be magnified to the extreme. Unifying the world was easy, but what would happen after unifying it? It could be imagined that under the influence of the will of the heavens, there would be many rebellious forces everywhere. If they used force to suppress it, it would only cause more hatred and hostility. In the end, it would become a tyranny. As the saying goes, those who are tainted by the country are the rulers of the country. Those who are tainted by the country are the kings of the world. In his previous life, a certain country was already a heaven-like existence in the eyes of other people, and its citizens were full of complaints. Now, to them, this world was a huge bait. If they forcefully swallowed it, they would definitely be hooked by the throat. Since that was the case, it was better to leave martial union. It was better to leave the enemy outside than at home. Chapter 1224. At the Peach Blossom Fairy, the west wind was strong. The peach blossoms had long fallen, leaving only a patch of dead wood. A middle-aged man stood in the wind and looked towards the north. His eyes flashed with deep-rooted hatred. He was actually still very young, but the worry wrinkles on his face and the white hair on his temples made him look very bleak. He could never forget what happened 15 years ago. That was the happiest moment of his life, but also the saddest moment. On the day of his wedding, the one he loved was taken away. Li Qingshan. He could not help but whisper the name. Hatred made him tremble. Perhaps there was also a deep fear. This was not cowardice. That devil, Fiend Star, it could make any brave and fearless person in the world feel fear, and it could also stop the crying of an ignorant child. Thinking of this, he touched a broken bone in his bosom. It was originally one of his ribs, and now it was engraved with runes. He rubbed the bone with his fingers. He clearly remembered every rune on it because he had sacrificed 7 ribs to refine it. In the end, he could only use it once. This killing bone was a secret of the tribe. It required the refiner to personally cut open his own flesh and carve incantations on the bone. Then it would be nourished in the body for 7 years. After it was taken out, it would require another 7 years of worship before it could be considered complete. By condensing a venomous aura into it, one could kill without a trace. One could curse the enemy to death with just a finger. Even if the enemy had peerless martial arts, they would not be able to escape. However, very few people refined this killing bone, unless there was a deep hatred, who could be so heartless to wait for 14 years. If one focused on martial arts, he might be able to take revenge in 10 years. However, his current opponent was that devil. He could not be defeated with any martial arts. Only by using this killing bone would he have a glimmer of hope. That beautiful face appeared in his mind again. Hatred overwhelmed his fear. He silently said, 15 years. It has been a whole 15 years. I, Wu Huan, will definitely take revenge for stealing my wife. Hey, the one over there, are you coming or not? A boatman in a straw raincoat stood at the bow. He roared at Wu Huan. Go, go. Wu Huan was shocked. This roar contained innate qi and was as loud as thunder. The other party was a Xiantian master. Could it be that he had run into an eccentric person who lived in seclusion? Suppressing all his hatred and fear, he stepped forward and cupped his hands in greeting. Innate. The boatman stroked his beard and sized up Wu Huan. What are you going up north for? If I want to join the World Assembly, how much does it cost to cross the river? Haha, come on up, it's free. Wu Huan boarded the ferry and asked, Brother is also a member of the Tianxia Society. That goes without saying, the boatman said proudly, and the pole touched the riverbank. The ferry flew towards the center of the river. At this time, the autumn flood had just passed, and the river was flowing rapidly. When a bamboo pole fell into the river, it was like a pillar in the middle of the river, showing its extraordinary martial arts. Brother, with your martial arts, why are you working as a boatman here? Of course it's to earn money to support the family. Earn money to support the family? Wu Huan found it unbelievable. How could a Khanate expert lack money? His Highness, and the guild master said that it's shameful to reap without sowing. Don't think that just because you know a bit of martial arts, you are so great that you can be supported by others. We, the members of the Tianxia Society, have to come from the masses and use our martial arts to serve the masses. A few cheers sounded in the cabin, as expected of the Tianxia Society, as expected of the chivalrous king. Ha, everyone is too polite. Chapter 1225. A group of children with wooden swords chased each other through the streets. Wu Huan swallowed his saliva, wondering if he had been too cautious. But when he looked carefully, he let out a cry of surprise. It turned out that those children were not fooling around. Their swordsmanship was very methodical, although each move and each style looked very immature. It was obviously a very high level of swordsmanship, especially the dark-skinned boy running in front. He was neither big nor small among the group of children. It was unknown why he was being chased and beaten by the other children. He seemed to be used to this scene. His face was calm as he fought and retreated, waving his wooden sword. Every time he struck, a child would cry out and fall to the ground. Don't be in a hurry to attack. Surround him. An older child shouted. The other children did not attack rashly. They took up a defensive position and advanced step by step. Finally, they surrounded the child under a mud wall. The older child laughed. Tai Dan, let's see where you can run this time. I'll beat you up today. You bastards, don't even think of touching a single hair on Tai Dan's head. Let's go together. Beat him up. A peasant woman at the entrance of the village shouted, Tai Dan, your mother wants you to go home for dinner. Got it. The boy shouted, total annihilation. He suddenly bent down and swept the ground. Instantly, smoke and dust flew everywhere, and the yellow soil filled the air. While the other children were blinded by the yellow soil, he turned around and leaped 3 feet off the ground. He climbed up the mud wall and flipped over it, standing on the wall. He raised his wooden sword and laughed. I am the hero king. Then he took off his pants. He took out his little penis and started to pee. The children all dodged. Throw swords at him. 7 or 8 wooden swords flew up. The boy held the wooden sword in one hand. With one hand holding onto his penis, he managed to dodge a few swords. However, his head was still hit. He cried out and fell down the mud wall. He also saw a glistening child's urine flying in the sunset, drenching him. Behind the wall, there was a loud cry. The other children laughed and rolled on the ground. They had vented their anger. The cries faded and the laughter died down. They all returned to their homes and went to their mothers. Wu Huan stood rooted to the ground for quite a while. The boy named Tai Dan had clearly cultivated inner force, and he even knew the Qigong method of raising qi. Not only was he a martial arts prodigy, he was also a sword prodigy. What was even rarer was that he was proficient in actual combat and knew how to adapt to changing situations. If he were to join any sect, he would definitely be able to stand out quickly. Although the other children were not as talented, they were proficient in swordsmanship and knew when to advance and when to retreat. Especially the big boy who led the other children, he could be said to be an outstanding person. In the end, he relied on everyone's strength. He had defeated the proud genius. The child's harmless quarrel, in the eyes of a Jianghu veteran, was like a Jianghu fight, a pack of wolves fighting a tiger. But this wasn't some aristocratic family or sect. It was just an ordinary village in the northern region. If another 16 years passed, who knew how many more experts would emerge? At that time, how would martial union contend against them? That demon's ambition was simply too frightening. I'll definitely die on this trip. If I can pass on my legacy before I die, I'll definitely die. Planting a seed of resistance in the northern region has not been a waste of my martial arts. Thus, he circled behind the mud wall. Following a trail of footprints, he arrived in front of a farmer's courtyard. A trail of smoke rose into the night sky, and the fragrance of food wafted over. Even the crying of a child and the scolding of a woman could not break the silence. An emotion suddenly choked his chest, causing him to stop in his tracks. Who's sneaking around outside? I'm a traveler from afar, wishing to join the World Club. Can you sell me something to eat and ask for a sip of water? Wu Huan regained his senses and walked into the courtyard, only to see a woman pressing the child named Tai Dan onto a bench. She pulled down his pants and spanked his buttocks until they were bright red. However, the child's clothes had already been changed, and the swelling on his head had subsided. The woman was in her early 30s and had a handkerchief wrapped around her head. Surprisingly, she was very beautiful, and her figure was also very graceful, unlike the stout peasant women. It was obvious that she knew martial arts. Along the way, he had already gotten used to this sight. Almost everyone in the northern region at this age knew martial arts. However, it was not profound, and he had not reached the innate realm, which proved that the child's talent did not come from his family. An old man squatted by the side and smoked. He grinned and said, "Are you here to join the World Club? Come in and take a seat. Don't mention buying. It's just a matter of adding a pair of chopsticks." The old man did not know martial arts, which made him heave a sigh of relief. "Sister-in-law, I saw just now that this child is very powerful. He fought against many people alone. He's a martial arts genius. Alas, he only knows how to fight all day long." "I'm sorry, sir." The woman patted the child's head, but she could not help but smile. The child immediately stopped crying when the woman stopped hitting him. He pulled up his pants and ran to the dining table. "Tai Dan, why did you fight with them?" Wu Huan touched the child's head. "They said my father is the opposition. Where's the child's father?" "Dead." The woman's face darkened. "How did he die? Could it be that the World Club?" Wu Huan hurriedly stopped talking, afraid of giving himself away again. How do you know?" The woman looked at him strangely. "I came to join the World Club. I also want to know what the World Club does. So I asked around along the way. It has a good reputation. but I didn't expect such a thing to happen. Then forget it. The child's father was originally a member of the World Club. Later on, he was sentenced to death for kidnapping a civilian girl. Wu Huan was speechless. He hated this kind of behavior the most in his life. He looked at the woman and said, "Could it be? Yes, I'm that civilian girl. Hurry up and eat. The food is getting cold." The woman touched the child's head. "Tai Dan, if anyone scolds you in the future, just say that you don't have a father." Tai Dan took big mouthfuls of rice and answered vaguely. Wu Huan did not know what to feel, but he thought of that beautiful face again. Li Qingshan, you hypocritical hypocrite. Chapter 1226. The woman laughed. "Look at you. If no one teaches you, you won't even know what to say. Drink up." "Wouldn't it be a lie if someone else taught me?" Wu Huan could not help but say. The old man was furious. "What lie? You're the one who's lying. These are my heartfelt words. I just don't know how to open my mouth." I misspoke. Wu Huan apologized. The old man felt embarrassed and touched his head. "I'm the same. If it were in the past, I wouldn't even dare to look you in the eye." "Why?" "You're an expert. Killing a commoner like me is a piece of cake. Now that the king of chivalry is standing up for us, you have to pay with your life even if you're a Khanate expert." "Father, he's a Khanate expert." "Ah, forgive me for my poor eyesight. Let me toast to you." Tai Dan also looked up from his bowl and stared at him. It was only then that Wu Huan suddenly realized why he felt that the atmosphere in the northern region was so different. Usually when he traveled in Jianghu, not to mention the commoners who did not dare to provoke the martial artists, even the acquired realm warriors would stay far away when they saw the innate realm masters. It was unlike the few young men he met today who dared to catch up to him and compete with his lightness skill. If it was another place, he might have been killed. Now, an old man from the countryside dared to scold him, a Khanate expert. How strange was that, without the vigilance between people. Even though there were many martial artists in the north, there was no sense of danger in the pugilistic world. If not for his deep hatred, he might have to admire the king of chivalry. But there were all kinds of feelings in his heart. This unforgettable hatred would never change in the slightest. "Li Qingshan, it's either you die or I die." "That's good. I'll punish myself with a cup first." Wu Huan raised his head and downed the wine in one gulp. The dishes were delicious, and the wine was also top-notch. It was said that the omnipotent guild leader Gu had changed the method of brewing wine. Wu Huan was slightly tipsy after drinking a few cups. He had the intention of taking the child as his disciple. Sister-in-law takes care of the whole family alone. It must be hard. The king of chivalry said that women can hold up half the sky. Women can also become peerless experts. My martial arts are good, and few men in the village can compare to me. Who dares to gossip about me? I'm going to slap him. Tai Dan isn't a coward either. In the future, when he enters the youth hall and comes back with peerless martial arts, let's see who doesn't envy me. Youth hall? After asking around, Wu Huan found out that it was a hall of the World Club, with the son of the seven-slaughtering demon lord, Lei Lai, as the hall master. It specially recruited talented children from all over the world. Learning martial arts in the youth hall did not cost a single copper coin. If they could pass the final exam, they would be able to join the World Club directly, which was the dream of all the children in the northern region. The woman stroked the child's head. Everyone in the village who knows martial arts said that. Tai Dan is a talented child. He will definitely be chosen to enter the youth hall. Mother, I can definitely do it. Wu Huan was speechless. If it was in the past, a Xiantian expert taking the initiative to take in a disciple was something that commoners could only dream of. Many legends began here, But in this case, a person of unknown origin like him was obviously not as attractive as the youth hall of the World Club. Unknowingly, it was late at night. The hostess invited him to sleep in the same bed as the old man. He was unwilling to accept it, so he took the opportunity to agree. In the middle of the night, a black shadow came to the child's bed. The white moonlight shone on his face, making him look ferocious. He muttered in a low voice, "It was the people of the World Club who raped your mother and killed your father. You're a bastard, and it's all Li Qingshan's fault." The child was sleeping soundly, completely unaware of it. Wu Huan stretched out his hand to pat him awake, and then awakened the hatred in his heart. But it affected the emptiness under his ribs, and he felt lost again. No one knew better than him how painful the taste of hatred was. What did all this have to do with this child? And that woman, hadn't she suffered enough? She had already suffered so much, and this child was all she had. If I had married her and had a child back then, he would be this old now. He would definitely have such talent, and I would teach him martial arts. In an instant, an infatuated smile appeared on his face, and then he suddenly sobered up. "No, I want revenge." After a while, he stumbled out of the door, crossed the wall, and rushed away. "Sir." The woman heard the movement, put on her clothes, and rushed to the child's bed. She shook him hard. Tai Dan, wake up." The child rubbed his eyes. "Mother, what's wrong?" The woman heaved a sigh of relief and found a bag of silver on the bedside. She thought, "What a strange man, but he looks much better than those old bachelors and rascals in the village." Wu Huan ran wildly in the wild, howling like a wounded beast. The moon was as bright as frost, and the autumn wind was as sharp as a knife. He didn't know the path, and just headed north. "Li Qingshan, come, let's settle this." When the sky was just beginning to brighten, he came to the city of Beiping, the legendary Devil's Den. He followed the flow of people to the city, and saw the city full of people in mourning, and his heart was even more desolate. Could it be that there was a plague in the city? That devil went against the will of heaven, and you ignorant people dared to stay here and follow him. This is retribution. However, the flow of people on the street didn't seem like there was a plague, and they were all gathering in one direction. He pulled out a pedestrian. "Where are so many people going? Whose family is holding a funeral?" "Sai, Master Fu Ku is going to pass away, and we are all going to send him off. Could it be Abbot Fu Ku of the Pudu Temple?" Wu Huan was surprised. This person was already famous when he was young, and then he suddenly joined the World Society. The whole martial arts world was in an uproar, and they couldn't believe it. Some thought he was enduring the humiliation and preparing to assassinate Li Qingshan. Some thought he was doing it to protect the lives of the monks in the temple, and had no other choice. There were many different opinions, but no one thought that he was a coward who was afraid of death. Later, the World Society didn't send troops south, and it was said that it had a lot to do with his advice, and he still enjoyed a high reputation in the martial arts world. "Sai, I didn't expect to die in this devil's den." He didn't have time to sigh, and he felt that he was getting closer to revenge. The temple was silent, and the old monk sat alone with a lonely lamp. Success chased after failure, and life and death were fated. If he couldn't go through the tribulation and ascend, his time would come. His chances of breaking through the void were not high, and he had almost no time to practice martial arts these years. If the youth hall was the hope of the World Society, then the Pudu Hall was the last safeguard, responsible for taking care of the orphans and the disabled. For the past 16 years, there were major disasters almost every year. Even though they fought the disasters well, there were still many orphans left, and they were all taken in and taken care of by the Pudu Hall. As the head of the Pudu Hall, He was the provider of food and clothing for these children. The World Society's financial resources were limited, and they had to build bridges, roads, and dams. At most, they could only ensure that these people wouldn't die of hunger and cold. In order to have a good meal for his children and a new set of clothes, he had to run around begging. As a former unsecular sublime being, he could no longer sit in the temple on the mountain and had to enter the homes of ordinary people. Sometimes he had to perform religious rituals to earn money, and sometimes he had to perform a dozen religious rituals in a row, supported by his vital qi. For the past decade, his reputation in the northern region was only below that of Li Qingshan and even higher than that of Gu Yenying. He was like the Buddha of all. At this moment, the sound of crying in the city was proof. In one night, he finally made arrangements for his funeral so that there wouldn't be too many omissions after his death. He could finally calm down and reflect on his life. He suddenly realized that he hadn't reflected like this for a long time. He was so busy that he almost forgot about the good thoughts, not to mention the evil thoughts. He couldn't help but recall 20 years ago when there was a great drought in the middle region, and people were starving for thousands of miles. He led the monks to chant sutras and pray for blessings in front of the Buddha for 3 days and 3 nights without sleep. Compared to the days he had lived these years, it was a kind of leisure enjoyment. He had almost forgotten the sutras he had chanted at that time, and he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Am I still a monk? The vital qi in his dantian began to disperse, and his face was pale, but his eyes suddenly shone with a clear light, as if he had woken up from a dream. He suddenly realized that he might have been possessed by the devil at that time. But when he recalled all these years, he didn't feel a trace of regret. On the contrary, a kind of warmth filled his chest, as if a lamp had been lit in his chest, and he had an explanation. Hero Prince, are you good or evil? The sun shone in, the morning bell rang, and the lone lamp was extinguished. Master has passed away. To be continued. The power of belief he had accumulated over all these years basically flowed out like water. Fortunately, he had personally shattered the mist province cauldron in the past, and he had even eaten a fruit of wisdom, so he had quite a deep understanding of the laws of the 9 provinces. As a result, the refinement process was relatively smooth. In the end, he managed to refine the Frost Province cauldron first. However, the Frost Province cauldron was unable to endure the attacks of the heavenly thunder and earthly fire anymore. It shattered loudly, swallowed, and melted away by the world. Even his mirror clone and the divine talisman of great creation were swallowed up together. Cut the nonsense. How is it? I don't know how to describe my current state either. On one hand, I'm standing here before you, and on the other hand, I'm roaming the world, existing with the world. I can dive into the deep sea, or climb to the top of a mountain with a single thought. Yep, there's a woman sleeping naked here. Not bad, but her stomach isn't too good. Li Qingshan was originally solemn, like an observer from beyond the mortal world. His final sentence immediately exposed his true nature. Gu Yenying shot a glance at him in exasperation. What else? I also see endless laws, but I can only walk around and look around. I don't seem to be a god. This was the first time Li Qingshan had experienced such a wondrous state in his life. He focused his gaze on Gu Yenying, but all he saw was a whistling, scorching wind from hell wrapped around a pale, green feather. He could not help but feel rather disappointed. He had never thought this guy would have already cultivated the illustrations of the Naraka to such a level, basically existing with hell. Just by looking at his expression, Gu Yenying knew what he was thinking. Finally, she could not help but swing her iron fan and hit him hard on the head. Li Qingshan realized that he could not see Gu Yenying clearly, so he continued to roam the world. Unexpectedly, he was hit. He touched his head and said, "Why did you hit me? I didn't see anything." Gu Yenying looked at his angry and wronged face and really had no temper. She sighed and said, "You're almost omniscient in this world now. This is already the ability of a god." "Yep, that makes sense. After all, the time is too short. I still can't understand all the laws of heaven and earth, so it's naturally difficult for me to control the power of heaven and earth." Li Qingshan nodded and suddenly patted her head. "Hey, it's not that I don't want to repay you. It's just that it's not time yet." Gu Yenying held her forehead and was speechless for a long time. She felt that in front of so many people, she really could not lower herself to his level. "But will your clone really not affect your main body? Don't be assimilated by this world. After all, no matter how strong the power that he grasped in this world was, he could not bring it back to the 9 prefectures.